We are in the people business. We just happen to sell cars. Gosh, we said that for a long time around here, but what does that really mean? Well, this is our attempt to bring out some of what that means in real-life stories of the people that make up this special company. My name's Ty Bullard, and I have the honor and the privilege of leading Joe Bullard Automotive right here in Mobile, Alabama, that is truly trying to make a difference one person at a time. Really, Ty? Easy to say, but are you seriously trying to do this or just saying this? I get it, and frankly, I think it's a fair thought. But come journey with us as we open up with these people and truly get to explore their humanness that makes them difference makers. We all have a story. I do, you do, we all do, and I'm just excited to share some of these with you. Okay, enough with the intro. Let's jump in. Welcome back to the next episode of the Toddcast. This is a place where we have Todd, our company chaplain, enjoying his nice glass of cold water, yes. We'll say, or coffee, or whatever it may be. Air. We do have some nice others first.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Make good happen, which I love that statement.
That's awesome.
Just something to kind of put that in the front of our minds. So others first, make good happen. Doing a lot of cool stuff through that ministry, really. But welcome back, Todd.
Yeah,
a place where we kind of hit you with a question that you're unprepared for, that we just get to hear the raw answer and learn from it. And I think there's a lot of things going on in the world today. I mean, we don't need to bore everybody with that, or maybe depress everybody with that.
I think
maybe it's not about bored, but depressing.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of stuff going on that we could certainly talk about. But we mentioned one thing's been on my mind, and I'll tell you where it comes from. And we talked a little about this maybe last week or a couple weeks ago. So I have a rising senior.
Right.
And about a couple months ago, I had a little bit of a dad panic moment. And in that dad panic moment, I said, "Oh my God, he's about to start senior year. He's going to, he's going to be busy with football and track and school and going to college, like getting. There's just a senior year. I've heard it's just an onslaught. There's no break. It's like you take a breath, hold your breath, and before you know it's over. And I realized, but I had this. I was like, have I done enough? Have I done enough as a dad? Like, have I taught him enough? What have I not taught him? Oh my God, he's getting in this world. He is 18 now.
Right.
He just turned 18 in July, but anyways, I just kind of had one of those panic moments. In all honesty, it was like, God, it's just been on my mind a lot.
Right.
And that kicks me to our question today for you. My question for you today: you obviously have kids that are through the house, onto their careers, onto their lives,
right?
With married, the whole works. Looking back on it, Todd. 3 things you knew you wanted your children when they left house to go to college, trade school, career, whatever it was. When they got out of high school and they left, 3 things you wanted to make sure was inside them.
Okay, so I'm going to start with the obvious for me, and it was that they had the tools they needed to pursue faith, and I didn't want to manipulate that. But I wanted them to be able to say, okay, here's some things that I can identify that when I get to school, because both of them went to school, when I went to school, that I'm going to be able to discern a path forward in my faith development. So some of those tools were discerning what kind of community you wanted to be a part of, if you were going to be in a faith community or if you were going to be in a campus ministry. So just ask the question, what's important to you as you try to develop your faith? What are some things that would be important for you to find a group that you can connect to that's going to help you mature and build in your faith? And so just being intentional about asking that question, I think, goes a long way.
What would be, to pause a second, what would be, you mentioned, I heard you say, and not control it, or not it sounded like what I heard, to let it be their choosing in a way. What would the opposite of that look like?
Well, the opposite of that is like, there's this church and this church and this church, or this ministry, and I know people in this, and you need to give this a try. And
so a little bit of soft manipulation.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because it's
soft manipulation. Yeah,
that's exactly what it is. So that's what you do with the 2-year-old, right? Do you want chicken nuggets or pizza? You don't say, what do you want for dinner? So you give them a choice, but it's only 2. And so that's what a lot of parents continue to do as their kids mature, and it's like that's not what they need. Because if you only give them a small range of choice, they're going to live in a bubble. and they're never going to be able to experience things the way they need to experience to have a deeper faith than what they would have if you just kind of steered it. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. I mean, I think there's a transition, and we've talked about this a little bit. We talked about it Outback some, about the whole parenting transition where it goes from a cop.
Yeah.
In the first early years, you're just a cop.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Then you transition to a coach.
Right.
You know, which is a little different relationship of how you interact. And then you really transition to a consultant.
Yes.
As they get in, which you're in right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Total consultant role.
And so that was one of the major things for me was I told the kids, this is your journey and you've got to figure it out. And I'm not even going to ever force you to be involved in a faith community, but you need to be thinking about what that looks like for you. So that was one of the things that I wanted them to know that
Kind of obvious thing, but makes
that they had a direction. The second thing that I wanted them to know was that they were always going to be accepted by us. So you have permission to fail. You have permission to make a bad choice and me not overreact. Does that make sense?
I'm going again to what's the opposite look like?
Oh yeah, I mean we all know like if you do this and this and this, then we're gonna whatever, we're gonna not pay for you and all that, and there would be repercussions if our kids broke rules or if they did really stupid stuff. But what we wanted to say is, look, we are now a resource for you, for your good and your development. And if you make a mistake, we're not going to overreact. That's what your kids need to know, that you're not going to overreact to a mistake.
And that's a commitment on your part.
Oh, it's one of the hardest things you'll do as a parent. It's one of the hardest things you'll do as a parent.
I failed many times on that.
Me too. And so what we wanted to do is create an atmosphere, a relationship with our kids that they could say, I made this bad choice, and these are the repercussions, but I need your help. Will you walk with me through this?
Is there a way, which I totally agree with that, and I'm listening. I mean, just hearing you say that kind of makes me think. I hope with one of my children, my oldest, like we're at a position that he can come to me with everything. Right. How do you test it? Is there a way to test that?
Well, that's one of those things where you're like, I don't know if I want to test it.
I know,
right?
it's vulnerable.
So it is vulnerable, but I think the way you so it's like building muscle, right? You have to work it and work it and work it and work it. It doesn't just happen overnight. And so the way you test it is not necessarily testing a stress point. It's not trying to use the weight analogy. Let's see what your max is.
Yeah.
It's no, we're going to build you up before you have to have that test of total pressure.
Yeah.
So the way you test it is, are you having meaningful relationships and conversations with your children in such a way that y'all can talk about stuff and that you don't jump to conclusions or judge
or leave the conversation.
Exit it. Right. And so you just build that, and you ask questions and you listen without interrupting. So, one of the things that we did, and I at the time I wouldn't have known that's what this was, but it was just kind of intuitive for me. I asked my kids, "What's the biggest fear you have going off to college? What's your biggest fear?" And then listening without trying to solve that fear, right? It's like, oh yeah,
jump into conclusions,
right? Or jump into conclusions, and then
so easy because we're just fixers. We're built to be
exactly. But at that age, they need to not be fixed. They need to have the tools to be able to navigate. Right? They don't need you to be the.
I'm thinking of a conversation I had with Johanna recently where she was trying to fix me, and I'm like, I don't need you to fix me. I just need you to listen.
Yeah, right. Right. That's exactly right.
Geez, that didn't make sense to her.
Yeah,
we're working through that.
It's the same thing. We do it with a lot of our relationships, and so asking questions and then not trying to give them the answer, but letting their answer be important.
What about number 3?
Number 3 is, what are your tools? Do you have the tools to chart a good path for yourself, right? And so we taught our kids how to come up with goals, and then how to come up with let me back up. Core values, we took them through a process. What are your core values? Like, what are your personal core values? Out of those core values, what's most important to you under each one of those values, right? And then, so once you've got those kind of core concerns under your core values, what are your goals for that? And then beyond that, then what's your strategy to accomplish those goals? So it was just this pattern of being able to verbalize what is your, core values, what's important out of those core values, what's a goal set around that, and then how do you choose that goal? What's your process?
It takes a lot of discipline.
It does.
A lot of discipline.
It does, but we did that, and we did it with Bennett, and when he was a senior in high school, and actually when he was a junior, and then again when he was a senior, and we had him come up with goals and core values under health, under relationships, under his spiritual life, his academic, and so he had physical. So he had goals under all those, and we had him kind of fill out. All right, so what are you doing? This is your goal. How are you going to achieve that? So he did that. And it was funny, I think it was his junior or senior year in college, we go to visit, and we actually spend the night at his apartment, which is, by the way, that's a whole different thing.
But I would think like to let you spend the night at his apartment. I was like, I wouldn't let my parents spend the night.
Oh, yeah, no. But
I didn't have a room. I only had like 4 beds.
Yeah, but this was a really cool, it was just a good thing.
You.
And so we go up and visit him, and on his wall, he has a whiteboard, unbeknownst to us. And what's on there?
Goals,
values, priority concerns, goals, and then his strategies to reach the goals. And then on the other side of the whiteboard, he had a checklist from his strategies, and half of them were checked.
That's powerful.
It was very powerful.
Man, I bet that was, as a parent,
yeah.
Well done.
Yeah, it was eye-opening that it was a simple tool that gave him the ability to chart his course forward.
But it's so easy to get just wrapped up in the busyness of our lives, of our daily lives. You got to get here. You got to do this. You got to check this box off the list. You got to do that, and it's just to run past that intentionality.
Yep.
I'm just speaking for myself right now.
Yeah, and it's easy for college kids to let life happen to them.
Freaking these things.
Yeah, college kids can let life happen to them instead of.
How often do you talk to your children now?
Oh gosh. Multiple times a week. I mean, it's awesome. Ongoing. Yeah,
I think that proves a lot right there. Because where are they? Bennett lives where?
He's in Birmingham.
Daughter lives.
And Morgan just got back from her 1,700-mile bike ride, and she's with us for the next few months.
I got you. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's. I was just curious. You know, I think parents and children that continue to talk daily and like that, it just that just shows you there's a strong relationship and that trust is there.
Yeah,
and it kind of organically happens.
Well, and it comes back now that they come to us not to help them, but to bounce ideas off of us, which is what a consultant does.
Exactly.
And a good consultant asks questions back.
Yeah. Well done. That's great information. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
That's very relevant for me at this time. Hopefully others probably in a similar situation are going to be in a similar situation. So I hope this is a way that you really listen and take a few nuggets from it. I mean, a lot of interesting stuff shared here. So thanks again for joining us for the Toddcast. Till next time.